Pakistan will serve any purpose in this atmosphere, raising serious questions over the way this operation also has been handled. I'm going to raise unanswered questions. Questions for the Indian Air Force, for our intelligence agencies, questions that we believe will have to be answered sooner rather than later. A, why was the base periphery wall not fully secured? Did the IAF fail to ramp up preparedness based on intelligence? Did the Garud commandos enter without adequate intelligence? Was there a command and control failure at the site? Did multi-agency responses slow down the reaction time? Unanswered questions now for the Punjab police. Why didn't the Punjab police adequately follow up the abduction of the SP? Can the Punjab police wash its hands off the Pathankot attack? Did security breach begin because of police laxity? Unanswered question for the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Was NSA Doval incorrectly briefed after day one? Was Mr. Doval's intelligence alert inadequately actioned on the ground? Were there errors in appreciation of the size of the attack? Unanswered question for the Modi government. Why did the Prime Minister and the ministers jump the gun on the result of the operation? Why did the government attempt to paint the operation as a success so quickly? What hard response, if any, is the government now planning? Lots of questions to be answered by the men in charge. But the people in my studio have been in government in the past, so they can tell us a thing or two. G Parthasarthy, former High Commissioner to Pakistan with us. Ajay Sani, Executive Director, Institute for Conflict Management, one of the country's foremost experts when it comes to intelligence and anti-terror operations. Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi, former Chief of the Air Force, is with us. And political viewpoint, GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP, Ajoy Kumar of the Congress, and we'll also be joined from Pakistan by Jan Mohammad Khan. But I want to focus first on the issues that I've raised with those questions that I've posed. And to you, Mr. Parthasarthy, you believe that standard operating procedures were not adopted in the manner that they should have. Give me specifics of where you believe the Pathankot operation has failed.
Let me start by saying I spent the 1965 conflict earning a Samar Seva medal at Pathankot. I know the place backwards. Coming to standard operating procedures, something worries me. For 25 years, the military has fought insurgencies successfully in Jammu and Kashmir. Okay? Second point, we have developed excellent special forces capabilities. Standard operating procedures in a Ministry of Defense installation involve protection by the army. You have to have one nodal agency responsible for protection. What possessed the government to bring in the NSG? It's never happened before. That
So you're saying the Army's crack special forces unit, which was nearby at Nahan, should have been used? You did not need to bring in the NSG?
I'm not saying. I would like to know why.
You would like to know why?
Why?
Let me for a moment just bring in Air Chief Marshal Tyagi. Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, do you subscribe to the view
why
that...
the NSG?
Why was the NSG brought to this operation, or do you believe that you know the Pathankot air base well?
There was a whole corps now there and any number of special forces units around.
Your response, Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, do you believe that the NSG was needed in this operation? Was there an attempt to micromanage this from Delhi?
I'll try and come. I think it's definite as a military man.
Yes. I'll try and come to Air Chief Marshal Tyagi in a moment. We're having some problem with this. Go ahead, Air Chief Marshal. Go ahead.
I do not know whether it was being micromanaged or not. I have no information. But as a military man, I can tell you that command and control has to be centralized for all operations. There is a single point command. You cannot have dispersed commands. So whether you use 2 agencies or 3, that would depend on the situation. I tend to agree with Ambassador Parthasarthy that perhaps a single point army command might have been a better option. But definitely a centralized command, a single commander is the need of the hour.
My question is simple.
Yes.
Why? Have you lost confidence in your special forces?
Ajay Sani, do you believe special forces should have been used, that the special forces unit nearby at Nahan should have been used? Are we saying that that is where the first major botch-up took place? Or should the botch-up be stretched to what happened when the Punjab police inputs were perhaps not, that the system didn't get itself alerted quickly enough?
No, you see, a lot of assessments that are coming in are on the basis of extremely fragmented information. You cannot make operational assessments literally on a element by element basis unless you have minute by minute information as to what actually was done. One of the things that I am aware of is that the NSG had actually been deployed in the IAF's base by 4 p.m. on the evening of the incident, on the 1st itself, which means that there was a response already in place. So to suggest that there was lots of intelligence, lots of information, agencies were not responding, seems to be based on fairly partial information.
Sir, but the information,
there will be a number of elements that haven't gelled together very well. I don't think we should be making these judgments at this juncture.
You're saying we should
not be making the judgments at this juncture. We need far more information.
Okay. But the fact is that it took between 12 to 14 hours.
1 minute, Rajiv.
No, 1 minute, yes.
I'm not making a judgment. I'm raising a query. Why?
That's one query that you're raising. The other query that I want to raise.
I agree with that. I agree with Mr. Parthasarthy. That's another. The other issue is of response.
Right.
Of response time.
Yes. That's exactly the question I want to raise. The response time. It takes 12 to 14 hours to come to the conclusion that the SP, the Superintendent of Police's account of his abduction means that there is a serious national security emergency on hand. Do you believe that was too late, Mr. Sani?
No, it did not take that long. No, it did not take that long. Because within about 8 or 10 hours, the NSG had already been deployed here. Whether you agree with the decision to deploy the NSG or not is a different matter. But you must understand that all systems had been alerted, a decision was taken at Delhi. The NSG was deployed from Delhi to Jalandhar.
When you have special forces around.
So, thereafter to Pathankot. So, I think, no, I agree. I'm not going into that decision. What I am trying to say is that responses had been already put into place. Were they appropriate or not? I think we should now begin to examine the operation at each stage.
Let me hold you to that.
Failures occurred, but that should be done. I agree with the theoretical position that Mr. Parthasarthy is articulating. That basically this idea that only NSG can handle all these crises is fundamentally flawed. Local forces, available forces should be the first to be mobilized, and we should learn to rely on them, and we should ensure that they are of a quality
they have never let us down.
response. And I'm certain that the Army's special units would have been adequate.
Can I for a moment though, just step back and look at the way the politics is already being played out? Because while Mr. Sani is saying let's not jump to conclusions over the way the operation was actually conducted, the fact is the Congress party, for example, has already gone on record to accuse this government of a massive security failure. You've even targeted Ajit Doval already, Mr. Ajay Kumar. A press conference was held today where the Congress party is already suggesting that the government of the day has failed on its stated policy of zero tolerance for terror. Now, have you jumped the gun? The fact at the end of the day is that none of the strategic assets, in particular the planes, tragic loss of 7 lives, but the fact is that the Air Force has been able to protect much of the air base. So why target the government even while the operation is on?
Rajdeep, just let's look at the facts which we have in front of us. The Cabinet Committee of Security has not met for the past 3 days. The Defence Minister is supposed to be in Goa. The Home Secretary gives a different statement. The Home Minister gives a different statement. The Ms. Kaur, who is a Akali Dal Minister in this Cabinet, tweets on Sunday that the operation is over. So the government is flooded with repeated contradictions. And there is no reason to explain that why the Prime Minister Modi has not had a Cabinet Committee of Security meeting in past 3 days. The other question, which is like what Ambassador Parthasarthy and Mr. Ajay Sani is saying, is a reflection of the centralization. No, can I just complete? Centralization of power. Why should you decide? I mean, NSG from Delhi, everything is being decided. Is it a centralization, the style in which this government works, whether it is Lahore, whether it is the whole policy, there's a single man or a single man and his
You've
group
made your
of
point.
advisors who is managing.
Ajay Kumar, you've
Isn't
made your
that
point.
an area of concern? Because the
Kumar,
government is a collective responsibility.
Ajay Kumar, you've made your point. Let's be clear. I do not want this debate today to be a two.
No, last point.
No, just a minute.
The last point is Punjab is concerned.
Yes. I want to bring in GVL Narasimha. No. You've made one important point. Let GVL Narasimha Rao respond to that. GVL Narasimha Rao respond to the point politically which is being made today. That the Cabinet Committee on Security has not met for the last 3 days. That the Home Minister himself has not been in Delhi for much of the last 3 days. He was also travelling out. The Prime Minister also was inaugurating a yoga camp, went to the Science Congress, was giving the impression that there wasn't this kind of emergency. This was not a major operation. The Home Minister went on record on Saturday to say the operation is over. Has the government in a sense been caught, particularly on its communication strategy, on the wrong foot?
No, absolutely no, Rajdeep. But let me first say this. Congress party has been very churlish and very insensitive in politicizing terror, even as the combat operations are on in the field. I think it shows of petty-mindedness. I'm constrained to use that word. But as far as centralization of power is concerned, for the Congress party which has emasculated the office of the Prime Minister and converted Dr. Manmohan Singh into a rubber stamp for 10 years and implemented the entire governance from 10 Janpath, for them to talk about centralization of power is meaningless, because Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi is an elected Prime Minister. He's a people's man, and he's on the top of the situation.
Mr. Rao,
he's on the top of the situation.
Let's talk about the hard facts. The hard facts is your government came to power saying zero tolerance for terror. Your government and your Prime Minister goes last week, meets Nawaz Sharif and reaches out to him. Your government in the past said, why should we be serving biryani? Why should we be reaching out to Pakistan? Chicken biryani being served to terrorists was one of your campaign platforms, that the Congress was soft on terror. Now the point is, look at the facts of what has happened in Pathankot. The fact is that senior ministers in your government have been caught, it appears, at looking a little amateurish in the way they have responded to Pathankot. And therefore I'm asking you the question, are there lessons to be learnt or not? Forget the rhetoric for the moment.
Yeah, Rajdeep, I think let me correct you first. It's our Prime Minister. He's not a BJP Prime Minister.
Our Prime Minister, yes. My Prime Minister, your Prime Minister.
The substantive. Yeah,
yes.
The substantive part. I think you see, I think just compare it with 26/11. You're actually constrained, forcing me to do it. 26/11, 10 terrorists come across the border and play havoc in Mumbai. They play havoc in Mumbai and conduct mayhem in the city of Mumbai.
And
here, the main objective of the terrorists was to infiltrate this terror camp and to destroy the entire strategic assets at this Air Force base. And they have failed in their mission. Our security forces were successful in preventing any damage to our assets, strategic assets. I think we must actually be, on a day we must be congratulating, we are actually questioning the operations, the conduct of the entire effort by the security forces. The ministers don't go and fight the combat in the field. And it is the security forces which conduct the entire operation at the ground level, and whatever information is passed on to the government at the central level, only that information they can share. So don't blame the ministers. It's an operation, unusual operation on the ground, and as information trickles in, I think they are given information and they pass it on to you. There is no effort or no attempt to mislead anyone. I think it's an evolving situation, and we must understand it. It's a 24/7 media. Please look at the media coverage. Even the media would have had to change the position from time to time, because the information that is coming in is dynamic.
I concede it's dynamic, but your Cabinet Committee on Security has not met for 3 days. This is the top body. We would expect all of them to be hands on deck, not going for yoga camps, not going for a visit to Guwahati, but being focused on what is a major terror operation. That's all I'm saying. Nobody is saying the ministers have to go out and fight. The fact is the ministers must be there.
No, I think Rajdeep, the response, I think the intelligence, unlike in the past, we had a specific intelligence, we had intelligence that something could happen, and all the agencies were alerted in time. The NSG had reached Pathankot a day before, but it's a very big Air Force base. It's not like a small campus that we have.
No,
it's spread over several square kilometers, 24 kilometers of perimeter circumference. How much can we really expect the people to monitor every inch of this particular Air Force camp?
Can I just take that to Air Chief Marshal Tyagi? Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, is this simply just, in your view, are you going to see it as the BJP seeing it as a success, that strategic assets, that the terrorists failed in targeting them, that the MiGs are safe, that the strategic assets are safe, or do you believe that more could have been done?
In our missions, Rajdeep, whenever we fly a mission, even in peacetime, when we come back, we have in our debrief a thing called lessons learned, mistakes made and lessons learned. Every mission. No mission is perfect, we will find out. But I will tell you one thing. As an Air Force commander, I'm extremely pleased that no Air Force assets have been actually harmed. Extremely pleased. Because please understand that should that have happened, the consequences, even internationally, would have been awful. The next thing is that the casualties that we have suffered, and it has been debated that we've got only 5 terrorists, but we've lost 7 very precious lives. But actually 3 of them were caught in a cookhouse. Now there could have been, they happened to be DSC guards, they could have been civilians, they could have been anyone. I'm saying even loss of 1 life whilst is not acceptable, but frankly, we should, I think we have jumped to this conclusion that we have botched up at tactically to that level. I again want to repeat that you can use as many agencies as you want, but I think where we need to think again is who is in the centralized commander on the ground there? Who's the one man who's accountable?
Who is the one man who's accountable? That's the point, right?
Let me just say, I've been through conflict, no, not to the extent of Air Chief Marshal Tyagi. Centralization of command in such a structure, okay? That aside, I think I take issue with saying that the whole thing has been a failure. I think let's face it, as Air Chief Marshal Tyagi says, when this group affiliated to the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Tehreek-e-Taliban, attacked the Pakistan Air Force installations, they lost several aircraft, losses running into near $1 billion. So I think we should take pride in what the armed forces have done. We can argue about whether it should be the army or should it be in the NSG.
So you're saying avoid the politicization.
Please avoid the politicization of an ongoing military operation, because the boys, I don't care whether they're Indian boys, whether they are NSG, they are army. They're doing a great job. They're laying their lives out. And the final thing, I have been in this air base. I've seen Indian fighter aircraft shot down in this base in 1965. It is huge. And before you announce success, Rajdeep, you will have to clear out every inch of the ground to ensure that nothing remains. So I think we should, and I don't like this politicization, somebody saying this, each side blaming the other. We are into a near conflict situation. The political parties must learn to be restrained till the operation is over. After that, say what you want. But the fact is, yes, I've raised an operational issue. As a former soldier, I find that astonishing. But having said that, as far as the way this has been dealt with, it couldn't have been better. Look, as the Air Chief Marshal says, 3 people you unfortunately lost in a non-combat situation. They were not there for combat. The others, every loss of an Indian life is tragic. And very frankly, I am more interested in the retribution we will take for all this, rather than...
That's what I'm coming to, the retribution, because in 10 days from now, as per the original schedule, the 2 foreign secretaries were supposed to meet in Islamabad. Should that happen, Jan Mohammad Khan from the GO in Pakistan Why should India be talking to Islamabad given this present atmosphere? Why should we be at all raising the issue of talks, Jan Mohammed?
I don't know why this question you're asking me. I mean, Pakistan has nothing to do with this incident. We have condemned it fully. And looking at it from Islamabad, it seems the incompetence of the law enforcement agencies not mopping out in 48 hours. And it was
One minute, sir. Sir, let us not stretch incredulity for God's sake. I don't want to make this a tutu meme with Pakistan, but let us not stretch incredulity by saying Indian agencies have done this operation. I'm sorry, sir. I cannot have, no, I'm sorry. There must come a time when, sir, there must come a time when I don't think this kind of conversation should... A reasoned conversation, sir.
India, which has a superpower mentality, has this, the people ping up operation taking over.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to ask my producer to switch this off. I'm sorry, we are going to switch this off because there must be a time and a place for this kind of rhetoric. So I'm switching you off. I'm sorry, with due apologies, sir. It's not that I want to curb your voice, but I don't want these kind of statements made at a time like this. I'm sorry. I just want to come back to that. Retribution is the question being asked. Should we be looking at that at all at this moment, Ajay Sani, as to what should be the retribution, rather than at the moment only focusing squarely on ensuring that the entire airbase is cleansed of whatever...
No, I'm saying at a due time. No, I'm not saying...
At due time. Retribution. But is the focus, is retribution at all a question mark? Is part of the retribution the fact that we will not talk on the 15th of January to Pakistan?
No, I don't agree with that.
Mr. Sani?
We have to talk.
This is so childish. I will talk to you, I will not talk to you, I will talk to you, I will... Yeah. What is the meaning of zero tolerance of terrorism? This Prime Minister had made very, very firm commitments that as long as there is any kind of terrorism, and by the way, this is not the only terrorist act. There are every other day terrorist actions and infiltrations and cross-border firings in Jammu and Kashmir. You may give higher value to incidents outside because it's become routine in Jammu and Kashmir. But as far as Pakistani-backed operations are concerned, they are fairly regular and routine operations on the Indian side. Under those circumstances, I see no reality-based justification for India to be talking to Pakistan at all, specifically given the kind of rhetoric the BJP and the Prime Minister have engaged in.
Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao, respond to what you just heard.
They made during elections and after elections.
GVL Narasimha Rao, respond to that, and then I'll bring you in Ajay Kumar. GVL Narasimha Rao, respond to what you've heard there. What is is one of the, in a sense, the message being sent out that talks and terror can't coexist?
Rajdeep, I think at a time when the combat operation is not still concluded, I think it's premature, at least for me, to comment on whether talks will happen as per schedule, what will be the agenda of talks. I think it's difficult and it will be improper for me to comment on this. But even as we talk about the talks in general, I think our government had ensured that we bring terror onto the center stage of dialogue with Pakistan.
But surely not in this manner.
At the NSA level, the sole focus was on terror.
Sir, I take the point that the focus was on terror, but the last thing you want is a terror operation to remind us that terror is the center of the talks. Ajay Kumar, will your party support...
Absolutely. Rajdeep, just...
Yes.
Yeah, let me make this statement. I think our government, whatever we have talked about, we don't, unlike Congress or other parties, you won't see a difference between rhetoric and actual performance. But today we are in government, so do not judge us by what we speak. Do not expect Prime Minister to make statements that he would have made as a Chief Minister. But look at the kind of actions that would follow. I think no one will be fair. I think this country will perceive, it's already seeing it. You will see that the perpetrators of this terror,
yes,
will have unequal and unimaginable consequences.
Okay, Ajay Kumar, respond. It's nice to see the BJP candidly admitting that Modi as Chief Minister had a very different view to what he has as Prime Minister. Quick response from you, Ajay Kumar.
One sec. First of all, talk is cheap, and I just want to remind historically with Mr. Parthasarthy and everybody else, Mr. Modi, when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat during the 26/11 operation, went to Mumbai and did a press conference. That is just for the records to talk about politicization and BJP. The second issue is the same government which talks so much. The Prime Minister has not taken Pakistan's name. The Home Minister has not taken Pakistan's name. The Defence Minister has not taken Pakistan's name. The Foreign Minister has not taken Pakistan's name. And then you're talking about strong response? I mean, which world are these guys living in? The Minister of State, Kiran Rijiju, by the way, says something very innocuous. And the third point is the Dinanagar case. They did not take that in NIA. NIA did not investigate that case. The Punjab police did nothing.
Can I come back to my central question, and that my final question that I want to pose to you, Mr. Parthasarthy, given what you've heard, if we've concluded that the operations are still on, the jury is still out whether there was a failure of intelligence, whether the operations could have been better handled. But the question then comes of talks. Do we go to Islamabad on the 15th or not? A quick response, 30 seconds.
Let me put it this way, there is no easy response. The fact is we'll first have to assess this fully. After having assessed it, we will have to present the evidence not just to Pakistan but to the world. And you can't present it to the world without presenting it to Pakistan. So, starting off with this terrorism-centric thing, let us engage Pakistan, but make it clear to the world. You are winning, after the Prime Minister's visit to Lahore, you're winning the battle because we have reached out.
So you can go to Pakistan and say, look, we reached out, yet you failed, yet you betrayed us.
Here is it.
And this is what we have to show, and Pathankot is an example of that.
Exactly.
So talk tough, but talk is what you're saying. Okay, let's leave it at that. We will continue to track this story. Several questions still remain unanswered as to what happened in Pathankot. I appreciate all my guests joining us. My take, where do we stand? The Pathankot terror attack is a rude wake-up call. The fact is that not for the first time, the security establishment has found itself on the back foot in this country. This is not the time to play politics or to call off talks with Pakistan. But once the operations are over, there must be a full and transparent inquiry on what went wrong. Unless accountability is fixed, the lessons will remain unlearned. A government that promises zero tolerance to terror can't shirk answering discomforting questions. Let's take a break. When we return, it's another big news story coming up from the world of cricket. Landmark push to clean up Indian cricket. The Supreme Court appointed Lodha panel recommending sweeping reforms in the BCCI.